Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about what I've been reading this week, what I finished, what I started, all of that good stuff. So let's jump right on into it. So the first book that I actually finished this week was called The Apocalypse 7 by Jean Ducote. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that correctly if I remember from the audiobook because I did do an immersive read for this one. And essentially you follow 7 people who wake up and everybody's dead. They've disappeared. They're gone. They have no idea what happened to everybody. So you follow this group of people as they're trying to figure out what has happened. Overall, I very much did enjoy it. There was definitely lots of little parts that had me laughing. I have to say my favorite character did not get enough page time, okay? And that would actually be the pastor. Pastor Paul was so fun because he feels like a giant oxymoron, or just like something that just contradicts itself. And it just makes it all that much more interesting when you read his POVs. The only problem is that all the best stuff that apparently happened to him happens off page. And I was really upset about that. So I have to say my biggest complaint about the book overall, aside from the ending, I didn't really care for the ending. I didn't care what the reason was for the apocalypse. It just didn't really work for me. And I also feel like it came just way too late in the book because it takes kind of like up until the last 100-ish pages before it finally starts to get unveiled to you. And I just feel like it came just a little bit too late, but I just didn't really care for it. But the POV distribution was just not good enough, in my opinion. You have 7 characters, and it felt like it pretty much followed 4 of them the most. Because Ananda, Pastor Paul, and then even Win, they have the least amount of chapters. And I just felt really frustrated by this, especially considering I really liked Pastor Paul. When you read the story and you get to his character, you're kind of like, he's kind of the coolest character in the book. Which sounds so crazy because you're like, he's a pastor. But it really was just, he was the most intriguing character. You get a nice variety of characters, a lot of diverse backgrounds. There's the main boy who starts off the story, he's black, and then you've got an Asian blind woman who that brings a whole different element to dealing with the apocalypse. And then I believe Torre was Hispanic, if I remember correctly. So you get this nice diverse cast of characters, and they all come from different backgrounds. And you've got the pastor, you've got an accountant lady who now is who grew up on a farm. You've got the blind character, you've got a child. You have a mixture of all these people who came from different backgrounds, and so you get to see how these different characters are dealing with the aftermath of waking up in this apocalypse. So that was nice, seeing these different POVs and how everybody was handling it in a different way. As for the audiobook is good, but there was one thing that did get on my nerves. They hired 7 people to play each of these characters. But when you were in, say, the biggest example I have is Torre's chapters. When you're in Torre's chapters and he has moments where he's talking to Ananda, the voice actor was giving her a British accent, but then when you would go to Ananda's chapters, she had an Indian accent. And you were like, why has everybody got different accents? What are we doing here? It was a little off-putting and a little frustrating. And I just feel like if you're going to have this many people, you might as well just have all of those people. You might as well just do the full production cast style instead of just this person reads this person's POV, this person reads this person's POV. I think they should have just done the whole measure and just did the whole cast. Make it a projection kind of thing, you know? But overall, it was fun. It was great. I enjoyed it. It's 3 stars. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. Other people might actually enjoy the ending a bit more because of what it deals with. Just for me, it wasn't really my thing. So, yeah. Very interesting. Like I said, had lots of parts in it, though, where I was laughing. Especially one of the nicknames that the pastor gets from the kid. The nickname he gets from her was hilarious, and I loved it. So, yeah, that was the first one I finished. After that, I had started the manga Kagurabachi by Takeru Hokuzono. I'm hoping I said all of that correctly. But I started this one. I was reading it through the Shonen Viz app. No, the Shonen Jump app. One of the two. And I read the first 2 volumes. They have up to chapter 70, which is a couple volumes out. But for actual like volumes that have been released where you can physically buy them, only 2 have been released so far. So I've read the first 2 volumes. So that's up to like 18 chapters. And I am very much enjoying it. It's like, I think if you were a fan of Demon Slayer and you were a fan of the sword magic, and then you had all of your interests killed because the mangaka was like, oh yeah, the swords don't actually have magic. I just did that for you guys, the reader, so it would look cool. If that bothered you, because it bothered me, Kagurabachi does not do this. The swords actually have magic. Everybody can see the magic that the swords are doing. And it really does make it like a really cool element. But you're following Chihiro, who is trying to get back these magical swords that his father made because they have all been stolen and they're in the wrong hands. And he is trying to get them all back. And so the first 2 volumes tackle the very first sword that he has to fight, but you end up finding out that there's all these other things going on as well. You've got like the government getting involved. You have these sorcerers that are also involved. You have groups of people who want the swords for their own power so they can do evil with it. There are other groups that want the swords to protect them. And then there's Chihiro, who's like, I just want them because like my dad told me to protect them and to make sure they don't fall into the wrong hands. Like, he's just trying to do right by his daddy, okay? And you end up meeting this adorable little girl who needs protection. And just her role is very interesting because she has a very special ability that certain people want to get a hold of from her. But we don't really know enough yet to know, like, more about why. Like, we knew why one character wanted to, but we don't know why the greater group of people want to get a hold of this girl. So it is very interesting. There is a lot going on. I will say there was a couple of times where it was a little difficult to follow the fight scenes, and it's just because there's the sorcerer magic and then there's the sword magic, and then a couple of the characters, because like this group of people got brought in and they're cannon fodder, okay? And so they all look distinctively different, but enough the same to where, like, in a big chaotic, like, scene of a fight, you kind of got them a little bit confused, and you're kind of like, I don't know who's dying or whatnot. And then on top of that, you weren't actually introduced to all these characters, like, by name. You were just kind of given, like, a visualization, like, hey, look at all these people. And then they started name dropping people afterwards, and I was like, who is who? So it got a little frustrating. So yeah, some of the fight scenes, they can just be a little bit difficult to follow along, but if you just kind of like take your time with it, you can eventually figure it out. But it, like, if you're like if you just like flip through manga as fast as possible, you're probably going to be lost in the fight scenes. But overall, it's a very interesting and intriguing storyline. I love the sword magic that Chihiro has because it's adorable, but also the lore behind it, adorable. I love it. Definitely, I can see this becoming a favorite for me because I love action manga, you know. So very much enjoying it. Very much recommend checking it out, especially if you have the shonen apps. Like I said, I can't remember if it's Jump or Viz that has it, but I believe it's Shonen. I believe it's the Shonen Jump app that has it. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. Okay, and then the fourth book that I read all the way through and finished was actually an old arc that I had from last year, and it is called Goblin Market by Diane Zayler. And I did a immersive read with this one as well. So I had my arc, my digital arc, and then I had the audiobook going. It was like a 5-hour audiobook. But this is a middle grade book where it follows 2 sisters who get embroiled in a fae-like situation, only they're with goblins instead of fae. But essentially one sister gets tricked and the other sister has to go and save her. One of the things that I really did appreciate about this particular book was Lizzie's character and how she was written and how everybody in her immediate life understood her as a person. I would have to say that she's probably very autistic coded because she doesn't like hugging people. She doesn't like touching people. She freaks out at loud noises. Like she has like a whole scene where she has a breakdown because everything is just so loud, and she like has a freak out, a breakdown. Like she doesn't know how to handle it. She has a lot of very consistent like autistic traits that I have learned to associate and identify with autistic kids. And so I did really appreciate that because it gives us a different POV of following a character, especially since she is the more like reserved, held back character because of her fears of dealing with the world and how like it's hard and frustrating for her. Whereas her sister is just very I love talking to people. I love being loud. I love being around people. I give people hugs, all that kind of stuff. And it was nice seeing how when the older sister, Minka, she's the one who gets embroiled in the goblin mess, and Lizzie has to like step up. And it was really nice seeing Lizzie come out of her shell and like push herself without everybody else forcing her to do these things, because every single time that Lizzie decided to take the next step and like do the next thing that she felt she needed to do to help her sister, she made the choice on her own. And everybody around her would be like, well, are you sure that's what you want to do? Like, we know that's hard for you. Like, you don't have to push yourself to do this. And she'd be like, no, I have to do this. And I think that was really good, because too often we try and force people out of their comfort zones instead of just like letting people do it on their own. And when they do decide to do it on their own, all you can really do is support them and be like, okay, well, we'll be here for you if you need help. And I really love the fact that, like, while, yes, there were kids in this world who didn't understand Lizzie, a lot of the adults in the world did understand her. And they worked with her and they made it, feel very inclusive and caring for her character. So I did really appreciate that. And, like, it's not something that's like super heavy-handed and like spelled out for you, but it's like you pick up on it as you read through it. And I just think it was handled in just like this really, really good way. And then the story was very fun and entertaining on top of that. And it does tackle the whole like love and acceptance and wanting the things we want while also not like leaving people behind who we think we are like obligated to stay with. Like, it does tackle some slightly heavier topics, and I think it did a good job dealing with them. So overall, I would say it's like a 4-star. Very good book, very quick read. It's great for like that middle, the middle grade area and stuff, especially if you have a kid who does have like who probably identifies as autistic. I think it's a good one to read because, like I said, it really showed how Lizzie was allowed to make these choices for herself without everybody else making the choices for her. So, a very good book. So after that, that's everything I finished. That's the stuff I finished. It's not a lot, which is fine, but I did start a bunch of stuff. So I currently have Black Feathers, Volume 1 of The Black Dawn by Joseph DeLacy going. It's interesting so far. I'm 130 pages into it of like 500. But it reads really fast, so that's really nice. Like, I don't think authors understand that like the shorter your chapters you're writing, the faster your book goes. Because like these have some very short chapters, and I just feel like I'm flying through the book. Like I remember the other night I was reading it and I was on like chapter 11, and then I looked at where I was at after like 20-30 minutes, and I was on 17, and I was like, oh my god, that's so much progress. But it involves this lore and this legend about the Crow Man. I don't know if he's supposed to be like a Grim Reaper kind of character, because it's still kind of like explaining who this character is to the reader. Like, everybody in the story knows who the Crowman is. But like me, the reader, I'm still a little bit in the dark about it. And so it's kind of like this boogeyman, grim reaper kind of thing. Like that's the vibes I'm currently getting. And one POV, you follow a girl who's supposed to be the keeper of the Crowman. And then the other POV is this young boy who seems to either be blessed by the Crowman or possibly going to be the new Crowman. There's some of the topics that are covered in it are very faintly familiar of what's going on here in America right now with there's an organization in this called the Ward who just kind of force their way into the government and start taking over and forcing people to follow what they want to do and not really caring about the laws and order of things that have always been in place and are just kind of taking over. So it's very interesting seeing that play out. But yeah, so far I am enjoying it. I do appreciate the fact that it does read really fast though. And then I'm still working on Ludluda. I haven't actually picked it up this week, but it is one of the ones that I am trying to finish out because I did start this back at the beginning of January. So this is a top priority. Hopefully this coming week I can finish it. I don't have anything new to say about it aside from the fact that it is still a book that's in progress for me. And then, this is a book I haven't started yet because I just picked it up from the library, but oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to start this one because I have been waiting for this one. And that is Among Serpents by Mark J. Gregson. I'm sorry, I have to hold it weird because I have a bunch of libraries where I'm at and they're all interconnected, and there's one library that insists on putting their sticker on the front of the book and not the back like everyone else does. And I don't frankly want you guys to know exactly where I'm at because that's creepy. So sorry I have to hold this weird. But Among Serpents by Mark J. Gregson. This is book 2 in the Above the Black series. The first one was called Sky's End. I read it last January when it came out, and I have been waiting. This one came out in January of this year, and I have been waiting for my library to get their copies in. I was number 1 on the wait list. I am so excited for this. So excited. So this is super high priority for me, and I cannot wait to dive into this. So this one will definitely be finished next week. So that is everything that has been going on reading wise for me this past week. It's a little all over the place. I am definitely getting back into my manga reading because I haven't done it for the past like year or so. But yeah, and one of those books is a book I own. So I've been touching on arcs, which is great. I've been touching on a few things I own. I have to stop going to the library though. I have to stop. But yeah, so that's everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe, all those great things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.